consensus that unemployment is going to hit 7% sooner than the bank thinks. What's your call? When do you think it's going to get there?
Two things. I want to answer the question directly. I think it'll take longer than the markets are currently expecting, because I think that productivity ought to pick up, and if productivity picks up, then unemployment will fall more slowly, because currently all of the surveys suggest that of the part-time workers that have been in employment over the last couple of years, a quarter of those want to work more hours. So you'd have thought that if the economy continues to strengthen the way that it's suggesting at the moment, that firms will employ more of those people more intensively. So I think the unemployment rate may take longer to get to 7% than the market's currently predicting. However, even if it did get to 7%, remember, it won't elicit any action from the bank other than a reconsideration of whether or not the policy stance is appropriate. I think, by the way, that 7% is too high a level. If we believe that the rate of employment in the UK on average ought to be around 5.5% in a normal economic environment, then 7 seems too high, and I think that they could easily lower that to 6.5% or something.
Trevor, if you're right, how do you think Carney, should he at all tweak his guidance?
I think that if they approach 7% too quickly, I think they'll move the goalposts and they will lower the unemployment rate. There are already discussions about doing something similar in the US, for example. So I think that it would be entirely appropriate if they were to do that.
But at the same time, Trevor, inflation expectations are growing, no signs of inflation coming down. Can the bank keep rates down for that long, given that inflation pressures are not going away?
Well, interesting point. Quite right for us to focus on that, because after all, inflation expectations is one of the knockouts. I think that the rise that we're seeing in consumer inflation expectations are partly based on the fact that fuel prices have gone up and our utility charges are going up. Now, to the extent that those things drop out in a year's time, to the extent that other price pressures ease, then I think that some of the increase that we're seeing in consumer expectations of inflation will actually fall back. And remember that actual inflation could fall over the next few months, and I think they will. For example, if you look at oil prices and the path of food prices over the past year, all of those suggest that we should begin to see some decline in the annual rate of inflation in the UK from CPI, for example, as soon as next week. Could be down to 2.4%. So I think that the bank will be comfortable so long as actually inflation is trending towards the 2%.